Hi, everybody, and welcome aboard to Local Matters, where living local never felt so good. Well, ever since Governor Kay Ivey's swearing into office, she has said that she wants to put a stop to the opioid addiction that is growing in Alabama. According to officials, Alabama remains the nation's top opioid prescribing state. That's why officials here have created and established several programs and tools to really get those numbers down. And when we come back, we are going to meet a young lady who works with officials and communities in hopes of reducing deaths from opioid overdose. You know why? Because if it's local, it matters.
Dance. Let me see you move.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. Welcome on back to Local Matters. You know, Alabama remains the nation's top opioid prescribing state, and that's why officials here have created and established several programs and tools to get those numbers down. Joining me to talk about the opioid abuse problem and how she is going to work with her organization to get those numbers down is Miss Jamika Leverett. How are you?
I'm well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Welcome aboard. So you are over at is it the Agency Substance Abuse Prevention?
Yes, the Agency for Substance Abuse Prevention.
Right. So you're there with Saram Selassie.
Yes.
And also Mr. Jason Lindell.
That is right.
Oh wow! Because they've been here on the show a couple of times talking about all of the great work that they're doing out there. And right now I can imagine you guys are doing even more. There are some serious things going on in our community with the opioid addiction problem, with Alabama being number one.
Yes.
Number one. How long have you been with ASAP?
I've been with ASAP over a year now.
For about over a year. Mm-hmm. And you are a prevention
Specialist.
Okay, out there as a prevention specialist. Tell me this, Jamika, what are you actually, when you're out there working with communities, what are some of their responsibilities and roles that you're out there doing with ASAP?
Some of the things that we do, we go into the schools, we try to educate the children and educate around that age when they're really starting to experiment. They want to know about these things, give them the information about it, and want them to make a conscious decision not to use these drugs and not to get out here and to try to or want to experiment with these drugs.
Okay, so you're going into all of the Anniston City schools, is it?
Yes.
What about the county schools? Are you going into the county schools as well?
Yes, we are.
So listen, so we're going into all of the county schools, and that would also make up Weaver, Alexandria, Sachs,
Yes,
those schools.
We're not able to go into all of them, but we are going into the majority of them, and that is also why we expand our horizon. We do community events and different events in the community to hopefully expand and reach these children and reach these people and reach these community members also, to give them the information and to let them know about what's going on.
Okay, so let's go back, because it sounds like you're really out there, boots on the ground, and you're doing a really heavy footwork going into the schools and talking with kids, and I would imagine the parents as well sometimes, as you mentioned, working with different events. But when you're out there working with, maybe you're there with a child as young as in kindergarten sometimes, first grade. Help me to understand, how are you able to really identify with a child as young as kindergarten? How are you, what types of activities are you doing with a child that young to help them to understand that drugs are bad for them?
Once we encounter kids that young, there are evidence-based programs that are in place that have been taken into account for kids that young. There are different coloring activities, so the kids are able to see it, on paper. They're able to visualize it in a creative nature to see, but to also learn, this is not the best route to take.
To start doing drugs. For those people who are listening right now, audiences are listening in right now and chiming in, we have a serious problem here in Alabama. There's no doubt about that. In fact, as I mentioned during my opening and monologue, that we're number one in the country for opioid abuse. Help people to understand what does an opioid abuse mean? What is that?
Well, opioids, it includes different things, but the main thing that we'll talk about today are the painkillers, but it also includes the illegal drug heroin. It includes synthetic drug, fentanyl, but like I said, painkillers seems to be what is fading us the most.
Is it fentanyl? Fentanyl. They said that's because according to officials, that's what Prince died from, was an overdose of fentanyl. So when we think about opioids, we're talking about a myriad of drugs, okay? A whole cornucopia of drugs, if you will. We're talking about painkillers. And you mentioned some of those drugs are oxycodone.
Oxycodone, hydrocodone, morphine, methadone. Those are some of the names, some of the brand names that people use. Vicodin, Percocets. Some of those are some of the brand names that we've seen that are the most common.
And so people are overdosing on these everyday drugs that people are prescribed by their doctors for various reasons.
Yes, and actually, from 2013 to 2015, the top 10 drugs in Alabama that overdose, they included these drugs like methadone, hydrocodone, oxycodone, morphine. Those were all on the list of the top 10 drugs that are people are overdosing on in our state.
You understand? You know, when we come back, we're going to go to break in a minute, but when we come back, I want to talk, because I read an article, this was, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, it was an article written by The Guardian, by Mark Lewis, and he talked, there's a huge problem. We know here in Alabama, but all over this country where people are overdosing off of everyday, well, I wouldn't say every day, but off of drugs that their doctors have prescribed for them. And he talked about in that article, there's some reasons behind this. So when we come back, after we come back from break, I want to talk about the social element to perhaps, this is one reason that we can perhaps maybe understand why people are overdosing overdosing off prescribed drugs that their doctors are giving to them. We'll be right back with more Local Matters. Hi, everybody, and welcome on back to Local Matters, where living local never felt so good. I'm Dottie Rimpsey, and I'm joined with Miss Jamika Leverett. We've been sitting here all morning long talking about the huge problem that is going on in the state of Alabama with opioid abuse. So I want to welcome you back here on Local Matters. And, you know, before we went to break, we were really talking about that opioids are a number of different types of drugs.
Yes.
We know that now. They are drugs that people will gain for many different reasons. Perhaps they had maybe they went to the dentist and had some work done there at the dental office. Maybe they had surgery, different things like that, and they don't end up taking all of their drugs, and then they leave some behind in medicine cabinets. Before we went to break, I shared with you, I read an article from, it was an article that was written by Mark Lewis, and it was from The Guardian. And he talked about this. He says that in his assessment that, it's one thing to blame it, this drug problem on, it's easy to blame it on the pharmaceutical company. It's easy to blame it on the doctors. It's easy to even blame it on drug dealers. He says, but what we really have, he says in this article, is a problem with who we are as a society, that we're not connecting anymore. People are feeling isolated. People are dealing with so many different issues of depression and anxiety, and they're looking for anything as a coping mechanism, if you will, to help them just get through the day. And I begin to say, you know what? There seems to be some truth to that. When people feel more attached to their cell phone, looking to see how many likes they got, than actually bonding with people and building relationships. What are you finding that's going on with when you go into communities and talking with people? How are you received when you go in?
I think that a lot of it comes from a lot of people have a triggering event, or they have something, a death in the family, or they have something going on personally, and they try to find a way to self-medicate. They try to find a way to get themselves through it, and the drugs or the pills, they're available. One of the main ways that people are getting these pills or getting these drugs, getting these painkillers, is they're being left behind. They're being left once they're done with them, or if there are extra ones, people are leaving them in the cabinets, and they're getting a hold to them.
And you know what, that's true. I recently had some gum surgery, and I had some dental work done myself earlier this summer. And they, my dentist, of course, he prescribed for me painkillers, and I didn't take all of them. I must admit, there's quite a few of those painkillers still in my medicine cabinet. So if you think about a household too, if you're a family, I'm just going to say maybe even a family of 4. And let's say you've gone to the doctor, your wife has gone to the doctor, maybe your kids had injuries from sports, they've got pain. So as you can see, yeah, you can look in your medicine cabinet and realize you've got a tons of pain medications just sitting there.
Right.
And it's easy for people to get to.
That is
It really is easy for people to get to. Another thing I wanted to bring out in this article that I read, Jamaica, was that not only are people they're not feeling connected, and as I mentioned earlier, people are suffering from anxiety and depression, but people are dealing with so much in our society today, not being able to find work, not being able to, if they have the experience, the degrees, everything they need to get a great job and to be paid well, but they're still not. And so people are wrestling with all of this. And as you mentioned, people are just saying, you know what, hey, I can't go out and then really enjoy myself as I should, but what I can do is, hey, I'll just go into my medicine cabinet and I just want to just relax. Let me get a pill. And then I'll get a glass of wine. And there you go. I can see how it could easily happen, how people are being addicted. So when you are out there in neighborhoods and communities talking with kids, have kids even opened up to you that they have gone in their medicine cabinet, and do they know what those pain pills are there for?
The kids say that they know what they are there for. They don't say that they are getting into them, so that is a good thing.
Right.
But granted, I don't know, if they could be telling me that just to tell me that. But either way, they're telling me that they're there. Their parents have extra. Their grandparents have extra. They see the pills. They know they're there. They're available. They're in the houses.
They're there, right? And that's what really we're trying to work to make sure that we sort of get those numbers down. But I want to go back because I know right now Alabama is really working really hard to really work with communities and work with families to get those numbers down, to really remove those painkillers, if you will, out of the home. They've been really working diligently with this. In fact, TV24 was out about 2 weeks or so. We got a chance to talk with Sheriff Matt Wade here from Calhoun County, and I want to listen to what they are doing there at the Sheriff's office. Let's listen to that.
We need to try to help them and take care of them and offer them ways that they can maybe get the help they need. So we definitely don't want them dying when there's something as so simple as having a dose of Narcan or a nose spray that you can spray in their nose and keep them from dying. So it's just one more way that we're trying to be servants to our community.
That's right. So they're working to try to be a service to the community in that way. Help us to understand, for audiences who are not quite familiar, what is Narcan or Narcan? That is that drug that's there to help people to sort of I believe, is it there to help them sort of if they are overdosing, it can kind of bring them back?
Bring them back, yes.
That's what the Narcan is.
Yes.
Is it pronounced another name too? Is it naloxone? Naloxone. And so, the fact that Calhoun County has that is absolutely awesome because I read in doing some research that a lot of counties are not able to get their hands on something like that. It's huge to have those type of tools to bring people back if they are ever in situations where they come across people in an overdose state. So when we come back, we're going to go to break. When we come back, I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about a national event that's coming up really soon that you guys are involved with and working also to help really get those painkillers out of the medicine cabinets and really working to get them out of the hands of what could be truly devastating, especially if you have children in the home. So when we come right back, we're going to talk more about that. We'll be right back. Hey everybody, welcome on back to Local Matters, where living local never felt so good. I'm Dottie Rimpsey, and I'm joined with Miss Jamaica Leverett, and she is a prevention specialist. She works with the Agency for Substance Abuse Prevention. They are down in Oxford.
Yes.
Her executive director there is Mr. Saram Salasi, and she also works with Mr. Jason Lindell.
Yes.
He's also a prevention specialist, and they are out in the community really working with schools and other members of the community to really sort of kind of help educate the community and bring awareness that we've got some serious issues here, not only in our surrounding communities, but also throughout this entire state of Alabama, where we're talking about an opioid abuse and addiction. not only in the state of Alabama, where we're number one according to officials, but there's a huge problem throughout the entire state that's going on right now. And of course, officials from all walks of life are saying, how do we get here? How do we get here? And I mentioned earlier, if you're just joining us, I mentioned that I read an article from The Guardian. Mark Lewis is the author, and this is a sort of his theory that he believes that one of the reasons that we are finding ourselves here, we know it's easy to say it's the doctor's fault, they're prescribing too much, it's the pharmaceuticals' fault, it's the drug dealers' fault. But according to this article, we really need to look at ourselves and who we are as a society, and people are just stressed out. People are stressed out and they're dealing with so much. And you mentioned even in the schools, when you're out there talking with kids, that even they understand and they have a sense of knowledge about drugs that there's no way when I was in the 3rd grade I knew and understood that drugs would calm me down, but they do.
Yes, the kids, most of them are saying that these drugs, they know they'll calm you down. They know this. Of course, these kids have different things that they may be dealing with, and they may be prescribed some of these pills or prescribed some of these medicines. And what they say is they calm you. They make you calm. They make you sit down. That's what they're looking at when they're seeing the drugs. That's where they think about the drugs. Right.
So again, it makes sense from this article that I read from the Guardian, because kids, more and more we know now that kids are taking different medicines for different reasons in the schools now. Nurses are giving students pills to take while they're in school. When I was in school, that was almost virtually unheard of. I never knew not one student. Now maybe they were, but if they were taking them, I didn't know anything about it. But now, a lot of kids are taking different medicines for different things. So according to this article, again, we are turning into a society where we're becoming more and more dependent upon drugs to calm us down, and that we've lost that sense of connectedness, that interconnectedness that we used to have before we became a society dependent upon drugs. We would go by friend's house, stop by, maybe just sit on the porch and have that glass of lemonade or iced tea and talk and chat. But now we're too busy, doing this, checking, seeing how many likes we got. We don't have time. We're working 2-3 jobs, and we still can't halfway meet our bills.
Right. And once, people are saying once they become dependent on them, it doesn't give them that high. That's one of the reasons how we've got into this epidemic. Their bodies have gotten used to it, or they think they're used to it, or they think they're not getting the same effect from it, and they continue to take them, they continue to take more. They're trying new things, they're moving into new things. That's why, or some of the reasons where I've seen that the epidemic is moving or is rising.
It's going to continue to rise, because once as we mentioned, you're at home, you're not feeling connected, there are things in the medicine cabinet that can calm you. Well, let me go take one. Well, then once you do that a couple of times or two and realize, I still feel bad. Let me go take 2. I still feel bad. Let me get 3 and a glass of wine. You know what I mean? So I can easily see, again, how this problem can continue to escalate. But I really do think that there's more to it, as the article mentioned that I've been talking about all this time since we've been sitting here talking. I do think there's a little bit more to it now than just blaming the pharmaceutical, blaming the drug dealers, blaming the doctors. Why are we dependent as a society on drugs? I know, again, that you guys are working with the sheriff's office to really try to take back some drugs. In fact, there's a big day that's going to be coming up really soon. Talk to us about that National Take Back Drug Day, if you will.
Yes. So on Saturday, we'll be having our National Prescription Drug Take Back Day. The Anderson Police Department will also be there with us. And we will be encouraging people to drop off your old, expired, or unused prescription drugs so that they can be disposed of safely and properly, so they're not just sitting around the house so someone can get their hands on them, or so children can get their hands on them. We want them to be disposed of in a proper manner.
And this is happening not only just here in Calhoun County. Tell us, where is this going to be? What's the location and what's the site that you're going to be?
Okay, we'll be at the Walgreens Pharmacy on Quintard. We'll be there from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
on Saturday coming. What? Give us that actual date. That's October
28th.
the October 28th date, Taking Back Drugs. You can just walk up with drugs in your hands and say, here, I want to get rid of them. I don't want them in my home. I have children. I have especially middle-aged high school kids. I want to just get these out of my medicine cabinet.
Yes, and we want to continue this. This is in we are doing it along with the national date. Last time that we did it, we collected 115.5 pounds of
Wow.
expired or unused prescription drugs. So we're looking to continue this and to continue to take back these drugs.
Right, to really get them out of the household. All right, I want to thank you so much for coming aboard Local Matters and sharing with me what you're doing with ASAP, and you guys are working again with the Sheriff's Office. And then we encourage you too, if you've got old drugs sitting around from different types of surgeries and they're just still sitting there, and we encourage you to, if you're driving down out and about Saturday, stop by the Walgreens, it is, right there on Quintard, drop them off. And also, you can go online too and look it up. It's a National Drug Take Back Day.
Yes.
Because all counties throughout the entire state of Alabama are participating in this day. So you can look and find whatever nearest site to you and just get rid of those old drugs, okay? And try to keep everyone safe in your household. You know why? Because if it's local, you know what I'm going to say, guys. It matters. Have a good night, guys.